Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for clicking on the video. Like I said in my last video, I'm going to just focus region to region. And so in this video, what I want to do is I want to break down the East region. Personally, with how hard it is to predict brackets, and if you go way too quick and you end up making a mistake here and there, I would say the East and the West divisions of this bracket honestly can go either way. I think they're the hardest ones to predict versus the South or the Midwest. And so let's get right into it. I'm going to shrink down and we're going to go round by round for who I think is going to win. Purdue versus the Knights. Honestly, Purdue's the number one team. So again, I don't think any number one team is going to get upset this year. So I have Purdue moving on to round of 32. Memphis. I'm going to make a video about the biggest dark horse teams in the tournament. That sounds so weird to say. And the reason why is because of their blowout where they just handled Houston. There's been a lot of fun history about Oral Roberts, just like how there was with St. Peter's last year. And there's been a lot of buzz about this team recently. Personally, for me, it's like you have a blue blood in Duke. And Duke is coming off of the ACC championship game. So even though there's Max Asmus still, and supposedly the reports are that the roster is a lot better this year for Oral Roberts, the thing is they beat Ohio State. This is Duke. I'm going to take the safe pick and say Duke beats Oral Roberts. Tennessee versus Louisiana. Tennessee dominated Alabama both on the football field and, in the basketball court. Tennessee was a very good SEC basketball team this year, and so I will take the Volunteers. Just based off of program history alone, I don't know any of the rosters for Providence or Kentucky, but I'm going to take that safe pick and say Kentucky. So I'll have them moving on against Montana State. Michigan State versus USC. This is a really fun matchup where it's like, honestly, it could be one of those years, like a couple years back, where Roy Williams and UNC wasn't able to make it out of the round of 64, I think, and they got eliminated in the first round against Wisconsin. It could be one of those for Izzo and his guys, but I'm going to pick the safe pick and say that Sparty in this one. Marquette versus Vermont. Marquette's the Big East champs, and so I have them moving on to the round of 32. All right, Purdue versus Memphis. This could be where everybody's east side of the bracket is absolutely destroyed, because Memphis could absolutely show up and Purdue could just melt at the worst time. I'm going to go with my gut, and even though Memphis upset Houston in their conference tournament, Purdue is still Purdue. And so I'm going to have Purdue moving on to the Sweet 16, Duke and Tennessee. I also put a star by this because it's a big matchup. It could go either way. The star kind of indicates, hey, this game will be a close one. It could go either way. That doesn't have Coach K anymore and how much they've been able to hit their stride in the absolute right time. Like from the, just like a couple years back with Kimball Walker and UConn, where it's like, honestly, from the start of your conference tournament to the Final Four and the national championship, you got to go on an 11-0 run. And Duke could be that team where it's like they're trending in the right direction. All they got to do is put these handful of wins together. And I'm very impressed that a lot of people wrote them off in the ACC. Yet, in my own personal predictions, I had Duke versus North Carolina in the ACC championship, even though they were the 4th seed. And so, I'm going to take a safe pick and say Duke can beat the Vols. And that's no hate on the Vols either. Just Duke is Duke, so I'm not going to count them out. Kentucky versus Kansas State. I've watched a lot of people predict Kentucky beating Kansas State, and now I did the same thing. I was with how many people have picked Kentucky. This is that one pick where I'm like, honestly, watch Kansas State just upset them and get to the Sweet 16, because Kansas State, Florida State, and Xavier, I can remember in the past previous seasons, have always been that team where it's like, oh, overlook them. Yet it takes miracle buzzer beaters like Jordan Poole to barely even get past these kind of teams because they shock everybody. I'm going to pick Kentucky. That might kick me in the butt. But Kansas City, I feel a little bit lukewarm about that one. And then Michigan State against Marquette. I want to pick Michigan State, but at the same time, Marquette is Big East champs. And Big East, I personally feel, was playing the best college basketball this year. Second close to the Big 12 or the SEC. And so I have Marquette moving on against Sparty. All right, in the Sweet 16, oh man, I feel like an idiot for picking this one. But I do think Purdue will lose to Duke. Purdue, from just watching them, I get the same vibe as when Garza was at Iowa, where this is a team that can go far, but just they don't. The Big Ten, historically, just they are good, but just sometimes they'd come up short. I see no difference between this Purdue squad or the Indiana squad versus the Iowas and the Wisconsins and the Michigans of previous years, where you had them so high up and going so far, but the truth is they didn't go that far. So I'm going to take a risk here, and I'm going to say there will be an upset. Duke will beat Purdue. And then for Kentucky versus Marquette, I'm going to go with the same safe pick. They are the lower seed, and so I'm going to let Marquette move on to the Elite Eight in that East Championship game. And then out of Marquette and Duke, because Duke is going on their run and they're compiling a whole bunch of wins together with that new coach and with veteran experience from Lively and Roach, I think that Duke represents the East, and they go back-to-back in Final Four appearances. And this is a silly pick too, because honestly, we could show up day one and Oral Roberts could absolutely knock him out and shatter this bracket. But it's just one of those safe picks where it's like, you don't count out Georgia football or Alabama football. You don't bet against Duke. You don't bet against the Tar Heels, just because you never know what could have happened. I think the East is going to be really, really fun to watch this year. I'll keep up to date and do like 64-32 from then on and then out. But anyways, thanks for watching.